Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's Pastors Speaks. I hope that you've had a great week, and I pray that you're experiencing the blessings of the Lord on your life. It's not a difficult thing to do. It's all predicated on our ability to trust Him and to look beyond the immediate, the things that are surrounding us, our circumstances, the things that we feel that we're going through, and look to God, knowing that He's the author and the finisher of our faith. He writes the story, and He's responsible for the end production. So the expected outcome that He has for us will materialize based on our ability to trust Him. So this week I want to continue looking at the heart, or at least around the area of the heart. And on Sunday, we had the message about the harvest and reaping what we sow. And I found that so interesting as we looked into the scriptures. And in verse 7 of Galatians 6, it starts off with a health warning. Yes, it says, God will never be mocked. And I'm reading from the Passion Translation. God will never be mocked. For what you plant will always be the very thing that you harvest. So you can't plant oranges and get bananas. You cannot plant mangoes and get plantains. You get my drift. So whatever it is that you're planting, expect. It might not be in a straight line. You do this or this happens. Like in the Old Testament, you stole, they chopped your hand off. You kill somebody, they killed you. Straight lines. But here under grace and in the New Testament, the lines are not always straight. And so we actually believe that we can get away with stuff, that we can pull the wool over God's eyes, that we can deceive God. See, and that's our biggest mistake. But in verse 8, this is what it says, again from the Passion Translation. The harvest you reap reveals the seed that you planted. If you plant corrupt seeds of self-life into this natural realm, you can expect a harvest of corruption. If you plant the good seed of spirit life, you will reap beautiful fruits that grow from the everlasting life of the Spirit. See, when we're planting, when we're doing stuff behind the scenes, when we're doing things undercover, it's not always apparent what is really happening. And we can be doing something totally wrong, but make it appear to be good or for the advantage of somebody else. But you see, we're getting spirit and we're getting flesh mixed up. You cannot sow seeds of the flesh to the flesh and expect a spiritual harvest. It doesn't matter that people don't see what you are doing. There is a God who sees everything that we do. Absolutely everything. And not just our actions, but the very intents of our hearts, our thoughts, our concepts. He reads it, He sees it, He knows where it's coming from. And ultimately, He will make sure that you reap what you sow. And some of us, we think, it's not fair because they did that and nothing happened to them. And they did that and they didn't seem to suffer at all. And so we bring ourselves into a place of false security where we actually think that our seeds don't matter. Saints, our seeds matter. If you've been a Christian for a while, you've been hanging around church for a while, then after a while, it's quite possible that you will get discouraged, disheartened, or think that your efforts of sowing good seed, of sowing spiritually, is pointless because everybody else seems to be prospering fine without making the effort that you're making. So then you think, well, maybe I should give up. But listen to what the writer says. It says, don't allow yourselves to be weary in planting good seed. For the season of reaping the wonderful harvest you've planted is coming. And remember, it's going to be a wonderful harvest. Even if you sow to the flesh, it's going to be a wonderful fleshy harvest. One that will bring regrets and maybe remorse to your life. But when you sow spiritually, when you don't give up, when you place your trust in God at all times, you will reap a wonderful harvest. Now, the scripture goes on to say, take advantage of every opportunity to be a blessing to others, especially to our brothers and sisters in the family of faith. Wow. See, we tend to be looking at how much we can get away with outdoing, as opposed to how much we can opt into doing and how many people we can bless. And the truth is, God has blessed us so that we can be a blessing. But our tendency is to want to hang on to whatever blessing we have. Because if we give to others, that's going to leave us with less, and we might look less than somebody else. They're going to be better than us. They're going to have more. But this is really demonstrating to me the fact that we are trying to be self-sufficient. We're trying to depend on ourselves. We're trying to ensure that we get exactly what we have according to the plans that we have for ourselves. And we forget the big picture, that God says, I know the thoughts that I think towards you, thoughts of good and not evil, to bring about an expected end. So each day I am realizing that even though there are some things that God has turned over to us and we appear to control them, ultimately the reins will come back into His hands, and everything that He has predetermined, it will come to pass and it will happen. And so we would be best advised as children of God to trust in the Lord with all our heart and lean not to our own understanding. Because you see, what happens is that when we stop trusting in God, we have to create devices that is going to ensure that we have what we want to have. But every action, every thought is a seed. And as we carry out that thought or that action, we are planting a crop. And every crop will bring a harvest. So for me, I'm saying, why don't we take the easy way out? Yeah, there is an easy way out. Simply trusting God. The reason why it's the easy way out is because when we trust God, we can literally have peace in God. And remember that peace is not just the absence of war, because in this life, we have so much turmoil, ups, downs, etc., etc., etc. But even in the midst of the worst conditions that you're going through, you can experience and know God's peace. Why? Why can we know peace even in the midst of turmoil, in the midst of ups and downs, in the midst of adversity? Why? Let me tell you why. In Isaiah 26, verse 3, it says, you, meaning God, you keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. Wow. Wow. See, when you trust God, you develop the habit of stilling all your internal mechanics. So worry, anxiety, stress, all that kind of stuff that everybody seems to be experiencing right now, especially after lockdown when mental health is at a premium. But the scripture tells me that my inner workings and my mechanics will come under God's control of perfect peace. Not because my circumstances have changed, not because I've won the lottery, which I don't buy a ticket, so I'm not going to win. Not because somebody died and left me some money, but simply because I trust him. So trusting him means that he becomes my absolute focus. So rather than having my eyes on the things that's going on around me and worrying as a result, watching others panicking, and so beginning to panic myself, my heart, my mind is stayed on him. He becomes my focus. He becomes my hope. He becomes my peace. He becomes my joy. And even though things may not look good, the scripture reminds me that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord. So regardless, when I know that I'm able to trust God, and I begin to do it by trusting him. So you will be able to tell that I'm trusting God by the words that I speak, by the actions that I take, even by my body language, because you can tell a lot by somebody's body language. You can tell if they're anxious or if they're stressed, they're speeded up, they're rushing around, they look agitated. My whole demeanor will speak of the fact that I trust God. I'm not spouting stuff of, I've got no money. I don't know what's happened. So-and-so didn't pay me. This didn't happen. That didn't happen. I don't know what I'm going to do. You've seen people like this, right? And I guess most of us were people like this. But let this be a new day. Make a determination in your heart that you're going to tap into God's policy for peace. Because he assures you today that he will keep you in perfect peace because your mind is stayed on him, because you trust in him. Wow. We used to sing years ago this particular song, better days are coming by and by when we reach that city. But everything was around this idea that we had to die and go to heaven to have God's peace and God's better days. But let me assure you that right here on planet Earth, living in this earthly body, God has promised you peace if only you will fulfill the condition of staying focused on him. May God bless you, and we'll continue with the heart next time, right here on